So you're scrolling through your social media feed and you come across this singer, an opera singer, and she's doing her thing. But you have no idea what she's talking about or what she's saying. But man, if this is opera, I totally want to get into it. But how do I get into this opera thing anyway? In this series, I will be talking about 5 introductory operas and how to appreciate them. But in today's video, I'm going to talk about why listening to more opera is cool and suggestions on where to start. Hi, Cassandra here with Opera Appreciation for Black and Brown folks. On this channel, I work to make opera equitable by redefining misconceptions about opera and bringing a little bit more opera into your daily life. All right, reason number 1 why listening to opera is cool. But first, what is opera? Opera is just an art form that tells a story through music and through singing. It's very similar to musical theater. In fact, it's exactly the same. The only difference is that opera singers do not have their voices amplified with microphones. We do that all on our own. And that's what makes it more thrilling, personally speaking, because a microphone, if we're thinking science of sound, only picks up what's right here, whereas when an opera singer sings, they're using their entire body as a vibrational thing to send sound. Musical theater does do the same thing. It's just on a very tiny, it's much smaller scale because the microphone is doing a lot of the work too. Fun fact, if you are genuinely enjoying the sounds that you're listening to, the brain produces what's called a feel-good hormone called endorphins, which translates into sheer pleasure. So listening to something that gives your ears immense pleasure helps to boost those amazing endorphins in your brain and helps you to have a better feeling about your day as you go forward. And I think that throwing a little bit of opera into your musical mix is a nice way to change things up and expands your musical library. And why not? Reason number 2. The book, Your Brain on Music by Daniel Levitin really rocked my world. I'm still in the process of digesting this book, but here's the research that I've done thus far. He sums up these experiments of the brain on music, saying, the brain is a giant prediction device. It always tries to figure out what will happen next. Musicians experiment with this idea, and accordingly, the listener will attempt to order the sound based on their own musical experiences and conditioning. And this is what David says about how we are actually conditioned to music, which I think is quite interesting. He says that we're all kind of fueled for like being music buffs because when we're growing up, we're constantly sponging in information and taking things in. He says that our musical preference is formed from when we are about infants to 10 years old. And that's all based on what we're hearing from when we're in the womb all the way until we're 10. So if we're not getting a lot of musical things at this time, then we really don't have a sense of music or rhythm or anything. We're only taking what our mothers or what we are surrounded by to influence our musical preferences at that time. So when we get to around 12 years old, then we have this social element that starts to come in, and that helps to expand our musical preferences because it helps you to socialize with people that if you both like the same music and you both genuinely like to dress a certain way that's maybe like that artist that you both genuinely admire, and then you like have a whole crew of people that all like generally the same things, and it becomes this social endeavor of finding where you fit amongst your crew of people based on the music that you're listening to, and thus it begins to inform your personality. And so then when you have that exploratory period of being curious about where you fit in and how this fits in, how your music sort of plays into that and how it informs you, by the time you get to about 17 years old, 17 to 19, your musical preferences start to just solidify because you're not really doing much exploration. And from that point on, people sometimes get stuck in this seeking of music that reminds them of when they were in this sort of exploratory period of time instead of actually beginning to explore different and new music. Human beings like to hear things that are a little bit different, but not too far different from what we are accustomed to. So I could imagine that if you're somebody that's never heard opera before in your life, and then all of a sudden you hear it, it could be like the equivalent of being used to having like bagels and like cream cheese with maybe whatever, and then somebody was like, would you like some tuna tartare? And you're like, no thank you, that sounds totally weird and totally far from what I'm used to having, so no, I'm not interested, because there hasn't been any development from point A to get to point B to be able to truly appreciate the other thing. So here in this is my attempt to help bridge that gap, because I do feel like opera is really amazing and feels really thrilling when I'm listening to really great music, and that's a feeling that I think should be shared regardless of our race. But I find that it's not cultivated in our in Black and brown spaces because we don't talk about it enough. So here I am talking about it. Anyhow, once we get past 17 and we stop developing, when we stop really looking for anything that's outside of what we know to be normal, then sometimes we put our misconceptions around music before we've actually digested it or learned to appreciate it, and dismiss it when we could be really missing out on something really truly delicious. Reason number 3, places to start. So many people say, oh, I can't go to the opera because it's expensive, and that's such a huge misconception, because while yes, you can throw down a whole bunch of money to go sit in those perfect little orchestra seats on opening night and spend lots of money if you desire, but there are also so many more and easy entry-level ways to appreciate opera. One is by subscribing to this channel, shameless plug, thanks. The other is social media. Opera has a long way to go in a lot of ways, but what I'm really seeing and I'm loving is that opera is really stepping up its game and making its presence known on social media platforms. So if you subscribe to places like the Opera Next Door, which is a local opera to Brooklyn, you can see where they're putting on their local performances. There's also Berlin Opera Academy, which you can follow their IG account, and they're always posting live videos of their operas that they're performing. You can also go to the Met broadcasts on Saturday mornings, which will start during the operatic season, which starts from the fall. It falls in line with the school schedule, so fall to spring and then spring to summer. So for the fall season, which is approaching and is here, it's upon us, whether we want to admit it or not, the Met will start to be putting on broadcasts, and there's lots of easy entry-level ways to get into the story that's explained to you as you listen, and you can easily sign up for them at themetopera.org. But I did want to point out that they have a particularly fun one happening. The Magic Flute will be happening on the 24th, and that's a really great, easy entry-level opera to listen to. Mozart's a great place to start. YouTube is an amazing, amazing resource. There are full operas on YouTube all the time to listen to. You can listen to full operas on Spotify. You can listen to full operas on Apple Music. You can listen to opera anywhere. I think what's really difficult is like, well, I don't understand the terms and the stories and all of that stuff. And if you stick with me on this channel, I will continue to share that content as we go. But for now, to start, if you wanted to say listen to a little opera today, then I'd say a great place to start is to type in Nessun Dorma into YouTube. I'll even type it out right here, or you can click it in the subscription notes below, and you can listen to a really fantastic opera that a lot of people know, that it was made even more famous by the late great Aretha Franklin when she stepped up when Placido Domingo canceled, and she's like, don't worry, I can still take this, even though I do not sing in Italian, I'm still gonna do my dangdest, and it's amazing. So opera transcends all kinds of things, and I think that we need to just get over the misconceptions that hold us back and appreciate a little bit more of it in our lives. So, all right, that's my share for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm still getting into my YouTube groove, so thank you so much for following along with me on my journey as I learn to make weekly videos, and I'm learning as which days I want that to be, so bear with me as I find the right design for my schedule in my life. And until next time, this is Opera Appreciation for Black and Brown folks, making opera equitable. Thanks so much, guys. See you next time. Ciao.